The Pulse School on realagriculture.com is brought to you by Saskatchewan Pulse Growers, DuPont Verticin Fungicide, and Nodulator XL.
Well, they're getting, the Group 2 weeds are getting worse, definitely. We're seeing, I guess, an expansion of both Group 2 and, you know, the frequency that we see Group 1 resistant wild oats is increasing after every time we do a survey. Hugh Becky with Agriculture Canada does a survey every few years and finding that the weeds are on an increase. So it's important that we come up with not only alternative modes of action, but some alternative strategies in terms of cultural and perhaps even mechanical weed control to be using in combination with other herbicide groups. Well, we're working on some new tools. I think we'll have some new tools in a year or two. As I mentioned, sulfentrazone is new. I think that flumioxazin could be registered in the near term in field peas, and it's a Group 14, and looks like we may be able to get a registration in lentils in the future as well. And same with the fluthiazide and peroxysulfone. They both show promise. The peroxysulfone is a little more inconsistent because it's a soil active herbicide and requires moisture to activate it. And but you know, we're looking at solutions and timing and that sort of thing, and I think we'll have 3 or 4 solutions for pulse growers in the next 3 to 4 years. Well, I think they all hold promise. They all have their strengths and they all have their weaknesses. So I think pulse growers are going to have to realize that it's not going to be one silver bullet. It's going to be combinations, and we won't be giving up the old chemistry either. With the fluthiazide, for example, we may be tank mixing it with some of the Group 2 herbicides or metribuzin or something like that, just to round out the weed control or to help deal with the resistance issue. So yeah, they all have good potential. And like I say, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. Well, one of the best things growers can do in terms of delaying resistance on their farm is to tank mix herbicides with different modes of action that are equally effective on that particular weed. So for a weed like kochia, for example, in your cereal phase of your rotation, you might be wanting to tank mix a Group 4 with a Group 2, or something, you know, use something like a Group 27 that's tank mixed with a Group 6. There's options, and that's one of the most important options. So using a tank mix, also rotating their crops, trying to put the weeds a little bit off balance. That's critical. You know, cultural controls, making sure they have adequate plant populations, and things like that. Those are really critical. Now we've got we've seen identified glyphosate resistance in southern Alberta this past year, and of course for pulse growers the main concern there will be in the pre-seed burn-off. So it's really critical that pulse growers now look at tank mixing their glyphosate, well, and every producer in Western Canada look at tank mixing their glyphosate with another herbicide, another broadleaf herbicide, to delay the onset of resistance of glyphosate in their fields. Well, I mean, the glyphosate resistance is manageable in some, in some weeds. Certainly in kochia it's going to be manageable. We have some management options. It's going to be a little trickier. Although if you're growing, glyphosate-resistant canola, that becomes a challenge. So you really don't want to lose that tool. It doesn't mean you can't use it. So yeah, I think it presents some other challenges in terms of not only in your pre-seed burn-off, but if other glyphosate-resistant weeds or if glyphosate resistant shows up in other weeds such as wild oat, then we got some really serious challenges ahead of us. So I think growers have to be cognizant, and we're going to do a lot of research on this over the next few years and develop some strategies and some recommendations for growers.